I'm standing on the doorstep of my tiny, one-bedroom apartment. The one I had to scrape to get after my life got torpedoed. And who's standing in front of me, looking like two drowned rats? My dad and his wife, Brenda. Their eyes are red, their clothes are rumpled, and they've got a couple of suitcases on the pavement behind them. My dad, the man who is supposed to be my rock, looks at me with the most pathetic expression I've ever seen and asks, "Can we stay with you for a little while? We have nowhere else to go." I just looked at them. I looked at my dad, then at Brenda, who was trying her best to look pitiful but just looked smug and annoyed. And I felt nothing. Not pity, not sadness. Just this cold, hard clarity. I let the silence hang in the air for a good 10 seconds before I answered. "No," I said. "I'm not giving you a single cent. I'm not giving you a couch to sleep on. In fact, after everything you did, you both absolutely, 100%, deserve this." The look on their faces? Man, that's a memory I'll treasure forever. But to understand how we got to that point, we need to rewind about 2 years. Back to a time when I still had a father. It all started, as these things often do, after my mom passed away. It was cancer. It was brutal, and it hollowed out our family. My dad and I were devastated. She was the glue, the sunshine, everything. She and I were incredibly close. Before she died, she made sure I was taken care of. She had her own savings, a nest egg she'd built up over years of being smart with her money. She put it all in a trust fund for me, a little over $150,000. Her instructions were crystal clear, written down and notarized. This money was to become fully mine on my 25th birthday, and it was meant to be a down payment on my first house. It was her final gift to me, her way of making sure I had a secure start in life. My dad was the trustee, but it was my money. My mom's legacy. For the first year, Dad was a ghost. We grieved together, sort of. We didn't talk much, but we were in the same house, sharing the same pain. It was quiet. It was sad. But we were surviving. And then came Brenda. Dad met her at some work conference 6 months after that first, horrible anniversary. And, let me tell you, it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, the grieving widower was gone, replaced by this giddy teenager. He was texting all the time, smiling at his phone, coming home late. At first, I was happy for him. I mean, I didn't want him to be alone forever. I was 22 at the time, still living at home to save money while finishing up my degree. I wanted him to find some happiness. That all changed the day he brought her home to meet me. Brenda was polished. She was about 10 years younger than my dad, with perfectly manicured nails, a designer handbag that probably cost more than my first car, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She walked into the house my mother had decorated, filled with a lifetime of our memories, and I saw her eyes scanning everything, like she was taking inventory. "It's a lovely home," she said, running a finger over my mom's favorite bookshelf. "It has good bones. A little dated, of course. But nothing a full renovation couldn't fix." I just stared at her. A little dated? My mom had impeccable taste. It was classic, it was warm, it was her. My dad just laughed nervously. "Brenda's an interior designer," he said, like that excused it. Spoiler alert, she was not an interior designer. She was a consultant, which as far as I could tell meant she consulted her phone for Instagram trends. This was the beginning. Little things at first. The setup, if you will. A few weeks later, my mom's photos on the mantelpiece started to disappear, one by one, replaced by generic art prints. Then, her favorite armchair vanished, replaced by some cold, leather thing that nobody ever sat in. Every time I asked, my dad would have an excuse. "Oh, Brenda thought the room needed better flow." Or, "We're just trying to modernize a bit, son." He refused to see what was happening. Brenda wasn't just moving in, she was systematically erasing my mother from our home. The first major red flag, the real inciting incident, happened about 6 months into their relationship. They were getting serious. They sat me down for a family meeting. My dad looked nervous and Brenda was holding his hand, rubbing her thumb over his knuckles in a way that seemed more controlling than comforting. "Son," my dad started, "Brenda and I have been talking about the future. We want to start a business together." I was like, "Okay." Brenda leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. It's a bespoke, artisanal patisserie for dogs, she announced, as if she'd just cured world hunger. We'll call it Posh Paws. All organic, gluten-free, custom-designed treats. It's a completely untapped market in this area. I swear to God, I had to physically stop myself from laughing. A bakery for dogs? I looked at my dad, expecting him to crack a smile, but he was dead serious. He was completely under her spell. That's interesting, I managed to say. But you guys don't know anything about baking. Or dogs. It's about vision, not just experience, Brenda chirped. And we have the vision. The only thing we're a little short on is the startup capital. And there it was. I felt a cold not form in my stomach. I knew where this was going. My dad cleared his throat. We were looking at our finances, and things are a little tight. I was thinking, you know that money your mother left you? The trust? I just stared at him. I couldn't believe it. No, I said. It came out colder than I intended. Now, just hear me out, he said quickly. It would be an investment. We'd pay you back with interest as soon as the business takes off. Think of it, you'd be a part owner. Brenda chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. Your mother would have wanted to see her father happy and successful, wouldn't she? This would be a way for her to contribute to that, even now. The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall of invoking my dead mother's name to try and get her hands on the money she left for me. That was the moment I stopped seeing Brenda as just an annoying girlfriend and started seeing her for what she was, a predator. Absolutely not, I said, standing up. Mom was very clear about what that money is for. It's for a house. End of discussion. I walked out. The tension in that house for the next week was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Brenda wouldn't even look at me. My dad kept trying to act like nothing happened. They had hit their first roadblock, but I was naive. I thought that was the end of it. Oh, you sweet summer child, I tell myself now. That wasn't the end. That was the first shot in a war I didn't even know I was fighting. Thus began the escalation phase. They got married a few months later. A small courthouse thing. I went, I smiled, I played the part of the supportive son. But I felt sick to my stomach. After the wedding, Brenda's campaign to erase my mom went into overdrive. She convinced my dad to sell my mom's car. It was a beautiful old convertible she'd loved, and she'd always told me it would be mine one day. I came home from class, and it was just gone. Where's Mom's car? I asked my dad. Oh, great news, he said, avoiding my eyes. We sold it. Got a great price. It was just sitting in the garage collecting dust. We put the money right into the Posh Paws business account. It's our first real seed money. My blood went cold. You promised me that car. Son, be reasonable, he said, finally looking at me with a pained expression. It's just a thing. A material object. What we're building here, this is a future. For all of us. For all of us? It was the first time he used that phrase. Like my future was now inextricably linked with their ridiculous dog biscuit fantasy. I argued, of course. I yelled. I told him he had no right. But it was his name on the title. There was nothing I could do. That was the second major crack in our relationship. I felt like I was losing him, piece by piece, to this woman. They found a way to get the business started without my money. They took out a second mortgage on the house. The house that was almost paid off, my childhood home. They poured every penny they had into leasing a ridiculously expensive storefront in the trendiest part of town. They bought top-of-the-line industrial mixers and ovens. For dog treats. The business was a complete and utter disaster from day one. I mean, who could have possibly predicted that people wouldn't want to spend $15 on a single, gluten-free cupcake? They had maybe 2 customers a day. Brenda blamed the location, the marketing, the economy, the weather. It was never her terrible idea. As the money drained away, the pressure on me ramped up. The guilt trips became a daily occurrence. You know, if we'd had a proper investment from the start, we could have afforded a real marketing campaign. Brenda would sigh at the dinner table, pointedly looking at me. My dad would join in. It's just tough starting a family business with no family support. It was insane. They were acting like I was the one ruining their lives by protecting the one thing my mother had left for me. I started spending more time at the university library, at friends' houses, anywhere but home. The atmosphere was toxic. This went on for over a year. A slow, agonizing bleed out of their finances and my relationship with my father. I was counting the days until my 25th birthday. It felt like a finish line. The day I could finally get my mom's money, get out of that house, and start my own life, free from the drama and the emotional blackmail. And then came the final straw, the breaking point. My 25th birthday arrived. It was a pretty quiet affair. My dad and Brenda gave me a card with $20 in it and made a half-hearted comment about taking me out to dinner when the business turns a corner. I didn't care. All I could think about was the trust. The next day, I called the financial advisor who managed the trust, the same guy my mom had used for years. I was so excited. I told him I was ready to have the funds transferred to my personal account. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Mr. Johnson," the advisor said, his voice sounding strange. "There might be a problem with that. Let me pull up the file." I heard some clicking on his keyboard. My heart started to pound. "Ah," he said. "I see. According to our records, the trust was dissolved yesterday. The funds were withdrawn and transferred." The world just stopped. I couldn't breathe. "What? What are you talking about? Yesterday was my birthday. I haven't signed anything." "The trustee has the authority to manage the account," he said carefully. "Your father, as the trustee, submitted a withdrawal request last week to be processed on the earliest possible date. He stated the funds were being moved to a high-yield investment vehicle on your behalf. The transfer went through yesterday morning. Yesterday morning. On my birthday. Before the money was legally mine, free and clear of his control." I don't remember hanging up the phone. My blood was boiling. It wasn't just anger. It was a feeling of profound betrayal that was so absolute it was almost serene. He hadn't just taken the money. He had planned it. He had waited until the last possible second, the one-day window where he was still the trustee and the money was accessible, and he'd stolen my entire future. My mother's legacy. He'd stolen it for a failing dog bakery. I didn't call. I didn't text. I got in my car and I drove. I drove straight to Posh Pa's patisserie. This was it. The climax. I walked in, and the little bell on the door jingled. The place was, as usual, completely empty. It smelled faintly of burnt peanut butter. Brenda was behind the counter, scrolling on her phone, and my dad was in the back, messing with some spreadsheets. Brenda looked up, and her face broke into a fake, dazzling smile. "Well, look who it is. Happy belated birthday. Come to check out the empire. Where's my money?" I said. My voice was eerily calm. Her smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" "The trust fund. All of it. It's gone." "Where is it?" My dad heard my voice and came out from the back room. He saw the look on my face and he instantly knew. His face went pale. "Son, let's talk about this at home." "No," I said, my voice getting louder. "We're going to talk about it right here. In your empire." I gestured around the empty store. "You stole it. You waited until the day before it was mine and you stole it all." "It wasn't stealing." My dad sputtered, his eyes darting around nervously. "It was an investment. A business decision. The money was just sitting there, losing value to inflation. I moved it where it could do some good. For the family." "For the family?" I was shouting now. "I didn't care." "You mean for her. You stole my mother's legacy to fund her stupid, pathetic vanity project. You took the one thing she left me, the one thing that was supposed to be my start, and you threw it into this monument to bad ideas." Brenda's face twisted into an ugly sneer. "You ungrateful little brat. We were going to make you rich. This place is going to be a huge success. You're just too short-sighted to see it. Your father was trying to help you, to make your money grow." "Help me? By forging whatever documents you had to forge and cleaning out my account behind my back? That's not help, that's theft. It's despicable." I turned to my dad. "She would be so ashamed of you," I said, and my voice cracked, just for a second. "Mom would be horrified to see what you've become. Letting this woman erase her from the house, from your life. And now, you let her convince you to steal from your own son. You're not the man she married." That hit him. He actually flinched. He had no defense. He just stood there, speechless, as his world crumbled. I looked at both of them one last time. The two people who had conspired to ruin me. "You're dead to me," I said. "Both of you. I never want to see or hear from you again. I hope this place burns to the ground." And I walked out. I never looked back. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. I got a lawyer, but he said it would be an uphill battle. Since my dad was the trustee, he had broad powers. Proving malicious intent would be tough and expensive, costing money I no longer had. So, I made the painful decision to let it go, to cut my losses and move on. I moved out of the house that same week. Got a cheap apartment across town. I worked 2 jobs to make ends meet while I finished my last semester. It was the hardest year of my life. But it was also peaceful. The constant stress, the walking on eggshells, the emotional manipulation, it was all gone. I heard about their collapse through the grapevine. A cousin told me the dog bakery officially went under about 3 months after our confrontation. They couldn't pay their suppliers, couldn't pay their rent. They were evicted. Then, with the second mortgage and no income, the bank foreclosed on the house. My childhood home. They lost everything. The car, the business, the house. All of it. Gone. Wiped out by their own greed and stupidity. Which brings us back to my doorstep. 6 months after I'd last seen them. They stood there, humbled, broken, and expecting, what? For me to forget? To forgive? To bail them out of the hole they dug? When my dad asked if they could stay with me, I think he genuinely believed I might say yes. That somewhere inside me was still the son who loved him, the son who would do anything for his father. But that son died the day he checked his bank account and found it empty. So I looked him in the eye and I told him no. I told him they deserved it. I saw the shock, the hurt, the dawning realization that he had finally, truly, lost me. Brenda just looked furious, like she couldn't believe her meal ticket son wasn't also a doormat. I just said, "Goodbye, Dad," and I closed the door. I leaned against it, listening as they stood there for a minute in stunned silence before shuffling away, their suitcases rattling on the pavement. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. It was a bitter, painful, and messy ending. But it was my ending. And it was just